The elusive prophecies of Revelation have been an enigma to most for several centuries at least. It seems the more we get closer to modern times, the more information we have lost regarding the understanding of biblical geography and prophecy many times. We prove this many times over on this channel, and so do others. But are those days changing? Are the modern dark ages over? Are we in the days of increasing knowledge as predicted by Daniel? Or better, is all evil being exposed with the light of the truth? We believe we are entering those days, and we believe it is time to know how to interpret Revelation 12. We are the God Culture, a group of independent researchers with no affiliation to any denomination nor organization whatsoever. We read the Word and we test it, as 1 Thessalonians 5:21 tells us, prove all things, hold fast that which is good. Now, to address some of the comments that keep coming, most are wonderful, but we keep getting some who have gone to a prophecy class and they have this notion that everything is already well defined by scholars, and if you see, this particular word in Revelation, it must mean this. We've already proven that to be completely, utterly false, because even the very stars in Revelation are defined by Messiah as angels. Yet, in the stars above the head of the woman in her crown, we're going to show you that they're not angels. They cannot be angels, nor are they constellations or any of the other stuff. And a lot of those people go on and they apply astrology in many cases, not all. Regardless, we believe we had put forth a reasonable conclusion based on the evidence of Scripture. Joseph's dream is very clearly tied to this prophecy of the woman. It has the very same elements. Now we concluded thus far, the woman is Israel, not modern Israel, but true Israel, which is found in 3 distinctive areas on earth, and yes, scattered among the nations from there. But they physically still retain their identities with their homelands. The man-child, was not born as an adult, but was born and raised in heaven, redeemed from men and from earth, from the very womb. Yes, to clarify, the woman was already pregnant, 9 months pregnant, when she appears in heaven. The man-child is the 144,000. Then we find multiple markers in Revelation 12, in regards to the woman especially, which point to the east, to the lost tribes' land there of the Philippines, especially the great Philippine eagle and the sun symbology, as you'll see from the last video. If you haven't seen that, you really need to watch that first before watching this one. But just that itself is truly overwhelming. So now for the moon and the stars. Again, let's start with the passage, and then we will identify this symbology and tie it to the land that protects the woman. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth, and pained to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. And his tail drew the 3rd part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. And she brought forth a man-child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up unto Yahuwah and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she hath a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, Now is come salvation, and strength, and the kingdom of our God, and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accuseth them before our God day and night. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb, and by the word of their testimony. And they loved not their lives unto death. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea. For the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And when the dragon saw that he was cast unto the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time, from the face of the serpent. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of its mouth. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God, and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. We dealt with a woman clothed in the sun. Now, for the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars upon her head. Do these also tie in similar ways? First, the moon. Let's see. Let's go back to Scripture, which interprets these 3 symbols in Joseph's dream. Many of those who are trying to debate us always seem to ignore that Joseph already had a dream with these elements. So this is not new, and it is Scripture, and Scripture interprets Scripture. And when it does, you can't deny it. The sun was Jacob, or Israel, one in the same. The moon, Rachel, or the mother of the tribes of Israel. And the stars are the tribes of Israel themselves. We found also Jacob, Israel, migrated to 3 lands, of which one just so happens to be this very land of the sun, with major ties to this narrative, the Philippines. But is the Philippines also known as the land of the mother? Well, it has tribes of Israel, so we already have a fit, actually. But let's drill deeper and really prove this out. We are going to reiterate things that took us many videos to completely prove out. So, for the full evidence, you'll have to watch Solomon's Gold series, but we'll give you a slight taste to confirm this in this video, especially because of the ties. We found at the very end of that search that the Philippines is in fact the land of creation. Elda is its name according to the Book of Jubilees, a name we see even in modern times. Imelda, for instance, which is fairly popular in the Philippines. But again, is that proof unto itself? No. The Book of Jubilees actually explains Genesis on this, as it says, Adam and Eve, or Hava, her name's not Eve, that's a transliteration, her name is Hava in Hebrew, which is the language of creation and is her real name of origin, period. They were exiled from the Garden of Eden to, what does Jubilees say here? Elda, the land of their creation. That's what it says. So, we're not injecting anything there. We're not interpreting anything there. It says they returned to the land of their creation. So no, this is not speculative, and it's very easy to prove, because if you can find that land where they went, guess what you found? The land of creation. And we just indisputably really do. Again, just a taste. Adam then names her Hava, not Eve, her actual name, Hava. There he tilled the land, but what land? The land of their creation. See, Jubilees really brings this all home and ties it together, because Jubilees and Genesis were written together by Moses himself. So the very soil that Adam was created from is the very soil that he's going to be tilling. Now, when we read Genesis, it really comes to light. As chapter 3 says, Adam was taken from the garden to till the ground. But what ground? From whence he was taken. Yes, Genesis was being literal. We said the Bible's literal. Yes, we say that all the time. We believe it and we prove it. And this is another instance that proves the Bible really is literal. And now we know. So Elda, mother of all creation, the land of creation, where all life began on earth, ground zero for the creation event. And we won't touch on everything that we go through to prove that, but science completely confirms this. The flood wiped out land, animals, and humans according to Scripture. However, marine life was largely spared and not wiped out. So, you scientifically find the origin of man, not finding bones, which one can find older ones tomorrow, and they can't date accurately, even remotely closely anyway, especially not anything that was submerged underwater for so long as the flood occurred over almost a year. You find the land of creation by finding the most diverse marine population on Earth. It is the measure, the only scientific measure that makes sense and is easily testable and observable. And that is the Sulu-Sulawesi Seascape, basically the Sulu Sea in the Philippines. According to many marine biologists, and even reported on the major networks and CNN, in fact, the Philippines is now known as the center of marine biodiversity for the entire Earth. Some references say there is more marine biodiversity in the Philippines than the rest of the Earth combined. Now, have we gone out and counted all marine life ourselves to prove that? No, we're taking the word of actual marine biologists, and by the hundreds. Regardless, this is the origin of all life, as also identified by the very book of Jubilees and even Genesis for that matter. And we go far deeper than that, just that. So watch Solomon's Gold series and you will find the proof is all there. The other thing we prove is that the Philippines is the land of Hava, Eve, named Havilah, after her very curse from the Garden of Eden, childbirth. Hava means one who suffers pain that brings forth in Hebrew, which is its origin, and is the origin of the name Hava, of which this is a Hebrew variant. And that is specific to Eve's curse, using a variant of her name, in fact. So the two are really one. Adam named Hava after the exile from the garden, and obviously he renamed the land of Elda, or creation, to Havilah at the same time, Eve's curse. How do we know this is the Philippines? Because thousands of years ago, Moses describes the land of Havilah by its location, which we locate in great detail over 20 plus videos. We're not going to do that in this video, again, just a taste. But also, by its resources, you can find the land of ancient Havilah. The name of the first is Pisan. This is Genesis 2. That is it which compasseth, surrounds, and yes, it does. We prove that out completely as we completely locate each of the rivers from Eden, and they actually fit the descriptions in Genesis 2. Can you imagine that? Someone who actually proves it out and goes back and tests it with the Bible to see if it fits. You won't find that with any of the guys saying it's in Africa or Iraq, because those are completely obliterated very easily from Scripture. Very easily. The whole land of Havilah, that's what it surrounds. What is Havilah defined by? 3 resources. Where there is gold, and the gold of that land is good, abundant. There is bdellium, that is pearl. We indisputably prove that is pearl, not African resin, because the word is only used one other time in the Bible, and it is the color of the manna that the Israelites ate in the wilderness. And that is not the nasty African resin. That would be disgusting. And the onyx stone, not the gemstone, but the onyx stone used in construction since ancient times. In Egypt it was used, and it's been identified and tested, and it was called alabaster many times, though it is onyx stone specifically. And it's in the same family as marble. The Philippines has been mining gold since before 1000 BC and still has the second largest untouched reserve of gold in the ground. Yes, we prove that. So, in history, it far surpasses even South Africa and is the leader in gold, number 1, on Earth. The largest pearls on Earth, by far, are found in the Philippines. And there is no close second, as it has the second largest, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, the eighth. It has been finding the largest pearls on Earth since at least 1933 that are on record. And no pearl has been found as large as the one they found in the Philippines in the Palawan Sea in 1933. Whether alone, and that was 15 pounds, whether alone this 75-pound, 33-kilo massive giant pearl that has been found in the last decade. It is amazing and indisputable that the Philippines check number 1 yet again. Notice that's 2 out of 3, not just present in the Philippines, but Philippines is number 1 on Earth in all of history, period. And finally, the strongest onyx stone and marble on Earth is not found in Carrara, Italy, as many would think, but in Romblon, Philippines, who has them beat for the number 1 strongest onyx and marble on Earth. And it is very abundant there. So much so that they use excess marble and onyx to build barriers for their streets even. Now that is amazing. So, the Philippines doesn't just have all 3 resources, and maybe, sorta, kinda, they could, possibly fit. It's number 1 in all 3. So anyone wishing to dispute this would need to go back and watch that series, The Full Evidence, but most especially would have to overcome this fact. And no one can, which is why no one has in almost 2 years. There is no better match to this land on all of Earth, and it happens to fit so many other ways it will blow your mind. So, the land of Havilah, or Hava, Eve, the first mother of all mankind, is the Philippines. Thus, the mother land certainly fits even in other contexts. How about that? It's also the land of the Queen of Sheba, formerly known as Maharlika, two Hebrew words meaning his bride, and today in Tagalog, the local language as Pilipinas, which is two Hebrew words meaning miraculous cornerstone or secret cornerstone. Imagine that. The real question is, how could this land not be in prophecy? Answer, it most definitely is. Even the map of the Philippines appears to have the structure of a woman, and that is actually well attested throughout history in Filipino references. This is significant because of the placement of these markers in Revelation 12, as the moon is where? It's under her feet, which will show you fits perfectly. And a crown of 12 stars on her head, which we'll also explain. These placements really come to life now. You'll see. And we know that Joktan's sons, Ophir, Sheba, Ophir has a brother named Sheba in the Table of Nations. There's another Sheba in Ethiopia, which there is a claim that that is Ophir, except for one massive problem. The other brother, Havilah, and actually there's 13 in all, we won't name them all. But they especially journeyed, because they're well recorded in history, from their homeland, which was, in Genesis 10, Mesha. Now, where is that? That is Mashhad, Iran, confirmed by the Book of Jubilees, which maps it out in detail and identifies that Joktan's inheritance through Arphaxad was what we call modern Iran. And by the way, only one other land did Arphaxad receive, and that was Israel, or the land which would become known as Israel, which was stolen by Canaan, son of Ham, which is why Arphaxad only lived in Iran. So did Joktan and their descendants, up until this point after the Tower of Babel. And they traveled too. Now, this is what Genesis 10 says. And the thing is that for many years, many did not know what some of these words meant, yet they are easy to find if you really search. And you know where to search, perhaps, I don't know. They traveled to Sephar. Now that is a Hebrew word referring to the tree of life in the Garden of Eden. That is not mistakable. A Mount of the East. Now this is amazing because there is the Mount of the East in the Book of Jubilees. It's not just some mountain, but the actual name of one of the four holy places of Yahuwah on earth. And it also is in the Garden of Eden. So we know exactly where Ophir headed, even from this passage, and tons more. And tons, boy, we go through this in so much detail, but we cannot possibly cover it all here. So, Ophir, Sheba, Havilah traveled to the Garden of Eden. The Garden of Eden. That's what this reference is saying. Twice it repeats itself, clarifying that they were headed to the land of the Garden of Eden. The Book of Jubilees even provides exact directions to the Garden of Eden on Shem's far eastern border, north of all the mountains of fire, which are Gunung, Api, the 147 volcanoes of Indonesia, indisputably, that still retain that very same name, because that is Javanese for mountains of fire. Again, we go so much further into proving that. But we wanted to give you just a little taste because we do keep getting some comments from people that won't go back and watch and want to debate. There is no debating this whatsoever. We prove this very firmly. And back to the mother, the land of the mother, Rachel. The Garden of Eden just so happens to be located right within the womb of the woman structure of the Philippines. So, can the Philippines be known as the mother? You better believe it. All the way into antiquity as far as history goes back, in fact. But the reference places the moon in a position in relation to the woman. Where is the moon? It's under her feet. Could that have meaning and lead us to yet further evidence? Again, we've already proven Philippines to be a match here to the mother of Israel, as it houses the lost tribes first, and then it certainly is the motherland, literally, of all mankind for that matter, thus fitting the moon in Joseph's dream. So we kind of already did that, but we don't usually stop there. We go as deep as we can into proving things out so as that they become in a category that is very hard to dispute. And this next part is amazing. The map of the Philippines structure of a woman in purple. And what's at her feet? Well, one might say Sabah, Malaysia. But that was part of ancient Philippines in ancient times, as Sabah simply means in Hebrew, and by the way, look it up, even Malaysians don't know the origin of that word. Well, we do. It's Hebrew. It means basically from Sheba, or territory of Sheba. Sabah, Malaysia was Sheba's territory in ancient times. So really, Indonesia is directly south of the Philippines at its feet. Could that have something to do with the moon also? Let's see. What we know about Indonesia is it has the #1 largest population of Muslims in the world. Now, that's interesting, but does that somehow tie to the moon? We'll get there. And even within the Philippines, most of the Islamic population is also in the very southern part of Mindanao and the islands south of that. Basically, at the very feet of the woman. Now, what does all this mean? Being the #1 site on earth for Islam, and also the southern tip of the Philippines being the same in the Philippines, let's take a look at Allah, the God of Islam. Allah is the name of the only God in Islam. Allah is a pre-Islamic name coming from the compound Arabic word Alila, which means the God, which is derived from Al, the, Ilah, deity. And that really is indisputable. Not sure that even Muslims would dispute that, but you can't really. The Arabic name for God is the word Alila, really. It is a generic title for whatever God was considered the highest God, and now that's in the times of Muhammad. He obviously replaced all of them with this one. So, different Arab tribes used Allah to refer to its personal high God. Allah was being worshipped at the Kaaba in Mecca by Arabs prior to the time of Muhammad. It was formerly the name of the chief god, the Allah, among the numerous idols. There were 360 there, not just one, in the Kaaba in Mecca. That's Muhammad's home. before Muhammad made them into monotheists. A lot of people like that word. We could care less about it. It's a polarizing argument. Historians have shown that the moon god called Hubal was the god to whom Arabs prayed at the Kaaba, that's Mecca, and they used the name Allah when they prayed. So Allah, or Hubal, is the moon god of a pantheon of, 360 gods, chosen to be the God, the Allah, of all of Islam. But before that, he was the Allah of Kaaba or Mecca. So he was Allah all along. That is actually true. But that's the home of Muhammad, which is why he chose that one from the hundreds of gods. It's very interesting. But what does this make Islam? I mean, well, just look at its symbol, first of all. It is represented by what? The moon, making it possibly a moon cult that worships who is the Allah again? Hubal is his original name, and his role was the moon god. That is a moon cult, moon worship. By its own admission, yet no Muslim, of course, would ever want to hear that, which is fine. Yet, it is fact. And did you know Hubal, the Allah, had a wife named Alet? Alet was the name and title of multiple goddesses worshipped in pre-Islamic Arabia, including the one in Mecca, who was a chief goddess along with Manet and Al-Uzza. She also happens to be the same as Isis, whose legend originates 23 miles from Mecca. Alet is also the goddess of war. Imagine that. Isis, the goddess of war in Islam? No, couldn't be. Is there really any surprise that ISIS, the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, of course, not the goddess, yeah, right, use this name even in Africa and the Philippines where it attacks lost tribes even? This is no coincidence, as it makes no sense for an Islamic State of Iraq and Syria in the Philippines nor in Africa. No. Isis is Isis, the moon goddess, aka Alet, the wife of the Allah, Hubal, the moon god. You could trace their symbol back to Babylon, the crescent moon and star, as well as the full moon seen on the Isis flag, and this same goddess, Isis, Semiramis, Ishtar, Alet, all the very same goddess, was worshipped at both seasons. We even see this in the worship of Isis as Selene, same moon goddess by a new name, as she was worshipped during the new or crescent moon and at full moons. You can see the symbol on her head even as well. There is nothing new under the sun, nor moon. Isis was one of the oldest gods or goddesses of ancient Egypt, but her origins are unclear. She is sometimes thought to have originated in the Sinai. You mean Mount Sinai near Mecca? Yep. And a further tie to the first video in this series, in fact, Isis is the virgin immortalized in the constellation of Virgo. Wow. So really, some are actually claiming Isis is the woman appearing in heaven? No way. Just look at the three statues of Selene, Isis, and Alet. Are these really any different? They have the same exact facial structure. These are the same goddess. Compare the 3 to the Statue of Liberty. Yep, same face. ISIS rules the U.S. too. She is Lady Liberty. Not because she wants freedom from tyranny, but ISIS was a consort to the gods. You know, the great harlot of Babylon, even. And they immortalize her over and over, even in modern times, right under our noses. And man, do they laugh at us. And the Christ the Redeemer statue in Rio, Brazil. So their statue of Jesus is the same exact face as the harlot of Babylon? Nice. Way to go, Catholic Church. Now, why is this? Well, look up the image of Mithra, and you will find it's the same exact face. And that is what the statue is actually of, Mithra. Many would say the Statue of Liberty, also Mithra, as the sun rays coming out of her head match a Mithra statue exactly. So maybe they had a sale on statue faces. Buy one, get one free, or maybe 6 free. How about that? No. These are thousands of years apart, yet they keep using the same face. Why would someone do that? Well, the answer is obvious. And here we pull it all together. These are all the same as the supposed statue of Mary, so we are told. You know, the one who bears all the same titles as the harlot of Babylon as well, and even looks like her, but we are supposed to demean Mary in such a way as to include this statue in our worship. The funny thing is, the same ones who disrespect Mary by using a statue of her enemy and calling it her along with the titles, unknowingly, of course, and we admit they do not know this. They are deceived. They're the very ones truly disrespecting Mary, even using the titles of the ancient goddess, none of which are in Scripture, none of which attribute to Mary, all of which attributed to the ancient harlot of Babylon. Yet these are all the same statue of the same figure. That cannot be overlooked. So Islam is the moon cult, but also inevitably tied to the other religions, really. And yet another very weird tie, because the largest moon cult on Earth just so happens to have its largest population center right under the feet of the woman, the moon under her feet, indeed. This moon is under her feet, remember. And Islam, the moon, is also at her feet and under her feet as well. So does this tie? Yes. First, the woman, which is Rachel, mother of Israel, certainly ties to the land of the mother of all creation, and the mother of all mankind, for which it bore both of those names, Eldah and Havilah. Yet at the same time, we find the very largest moon cult on Earth under her feet as well. That is no coincidence. And the last symbol, a crown of 12 stars upon her head. We know this correlates in Joseph's dream to the 12 tribes of Israel. 11 stars bowed down to Joseph, and Joseph, of course, being the 12th, representing the 12 tribes of Israel. So, there is precedence for the stars being angels, as we have shown you before, but in this context, also precedence from Joseph's dream as there being men. No, we are not equating men to angels, nor does Scripture, neither is Joseph's dream. But there's more such references. Let's look at a few. Genesis 22, that in blessing I will bless thee, and in multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of the heaven, and as the sand which is upon the seashore, and thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies. even Abraham's future seed, again, the 12 tribes of Israel, were likened to stars, and that is likely why Joseph saw them in the dream that way. Nehemiah and a whole lot of other scripture confirms this same reference. In Numbers, a prophecy of Messiah even. I shall see him, but not now. I shall behold him, but not nigh. There shall come a star out of Jacob, Yahusha, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel, and shall smite the corners of Moab and destroy all the children of Sheth. And in Revelation, even Messiah refers to himself as the bright and morning star. Is he saying he's an angel? No, of course not. He cannot be man and angel. No. So stars can also be men in Scripture. So Joseph's dream is actually very consistent with other Scripture, even specific to the tribes of Israel, in fact. And Daniel even says, at that time shall Michael, the archangel, remember this ties to Revelation 12 as Michael and his angels defend heaven from Satan and his angels, and they win. Stand up. So when does Michael do this? He stands up in Revelation 12. The great prince which standeth for the children of thy people, and there shall be a time of trouble. What is that? That is the tribulation. Such as never was since there was a nation even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book of life. And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake. Wait a minute, you mean they are not already in heaven or hell? Nope, not according to Scripture 59 times, which says our spirits go to sleep when we die, and we are not judged until the day of final judgment. So even Mary is not in heaven yet. Some to everlasting life, entering the kingdom of heaven, and some to shame and everlasting contempt, that would be hell. And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament. Now what's in the firmament? Shining bright? The sun, the moon, and the stars. Wow, we actually have a match to Revelation 12 in that. And they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. Who are the stars? Righteous people. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. We wanted to finish that out because we referenced that in the beginning of each video in this part of the series. As we said in the beginning, we believe these days are upon us. Knowledge is beginning to increase exponentially, and evil is being exposed on a grand scale already. There are lots more, but are stars people? Can that be? Indeed, they can be, and using Joseph as the foundation, they are, in fact, the 12 tribes of Israel in this passage. But is there a further tie to the Philippines other than lost tribes migrating there, which is enough, by the way? We believe there is. To the right is the outline of the Philippines, the figure of a woman. And just above her head is a crown, maybe, of 12 islands. You may say, wait a minute, stars are not islands in Scripture. We'll get to that, don't worry. The Bibuyan Islands form a circle of exactly 12 islands. Yes, there are some rocks and an islet, but those aren't islands. There are 12 islands. So could this figure of a woman actually be wearing a crown of 12 islands? Well, let's see. But let's look first at the word Babuyan. Bab, in the upper left of the screen, means gate or gateway. You mean portal? And Uyan, in Hebrew, means it was studied. A portal being studied. Now that's odd in light of what we saw in Enoch in the last video. First, from the scripture we shared earlier, which says, "Thy seed," Abraham's seed, "shall possess the gate of his enemies." Look at this location. Think about it. At the very top of the Philippines. And the enemy is very close to there. Interesting. But Enoch says, at the ends of the earth, he saw 12 portals to heaven, basically. Is there some association to a portal to heaven in the Babuyan Islands? Well, we can't prove that, but very odd that the name means studied gateway in Hebrew. But we know that stars refer to the tribes of Israel in Joseph's dream and other places. And we know they migrated to the Philippines, right? But are the lost tribes on the Babuyan Islands? Again, we find one of the original landing sites of the lost tribes in the Philippines to be the La Paz or Poway sand dunes in the desert on the northwestern tip of its largest island. That is a land of Ilocanos, and so is all the green at the top especially. They have scattered around the country since, and even abroad for that matter, but the green are still the heaviest concentration of Ilocanos or lost tribes. In fact, they were the very first to migrate abroad in history from the Philippines. The Babuyan Islands are linked to that northern area as Ilocano territory as well. So lost tribes are indeed there. But could we possibly find a reference linking these 12 islands to stars? Check this out. According to a book by Dominican priest Julio Gonzalez, who had the patience to explore the history of the northernmost islands of the Philippines, Babuyan Islands got its name from one of its own. In other words, neither Miss Piggy nor Piglet had nothing to do with the name origin. Now that's because baboy is the word in, I guess, Ilocano, but in Filipino languages for pig. So it's an assumed association, but a wrong one. So let's keep reading. Among these islands, Coruga Babuyan is the highest and northernmost island. It is also the most visible from Luzon and Batanes. Batanes are the islands even further north, just before Taiwan, where it is known by the natives as Mabaubao. Probably said that wrong, sorry. Or, in English, Burning Island. Interesting. Now, this is assuming that's in reference to its semi-extinct volcano. Maybe. And that explains why the island was named as such, Curag or Claro in Spanish, which means clear, while Babuyan is said to have evolved from Maboy or Mabuyan, which means to see a place which is seen. Eventually, the island group adopted the name of Coruga Babuyan and became known as Babuyanas, which literally means the places which are seen. It is simply known today as Babuyan Group of Islands. So wait a minute. Burning islands? Because again, all of the islands took on that connotation. So you mean 12 burning islands, kind of like burning stars? Indeed. Yes, there are volcanoes there, but notice the entire archipelago of 12 islands are referred to by the natives as the burning islands. So yes, there is an historic connection to the locals labeling these islands as stars, burning islands. And there are volcanoes there too, and we'll discuss that. In fact, looking at the eruptions for this territory of Cagayan, because all these islands fall under the province of Cagayan, there have been exactly 12 eruptions in history at this point on record. Odd. In fact, there were only 11 islands until Didicas, probably said it wrong, island was formed by volcanic activity in 1952. How about that? So they were 11, just as in Joseph's dream, and now they are 12. Very interesting. So all in all, there are 12 eruptions, 2 on the very northern tip of the mainland, admittedly, yes, and 10 on the islands themselves, but all very, very close to each other in proximity. If you prefer not to count the 2 on the mainland, that's okay, as perhaps there are 2 more coming on the islands, but what a strong coincidence indeed. And one final thing, one of our viewers pointed this out, and we thought we would share it. It's very interesting. The Philippine flag has the sun in symbology, the sun with 8 rays, so 9 if added together, and 3 stars for a total of 12. Very odd how that number keeps showing up in this context, indeed, in the Philippines. So we find the land that clothes and protects the woman in the sun is the Philippines. The woman remains Israel. All 12 tribes of Israel are the woman, as even the son is Jacob or Israel. Does that include the Philippines? Yes, but other tribes will likely gather there as well based on this passage in the end times, in order to gather and then go to heaven and offer their first fruits offering to Yahuwah and Yahusha. The moon is Rachel, or mother of the tribes of Israel, which fits the mother of all living and all mankind. Both are the Philippines. Now, what's really fascinating, additionally, if you want to go a little further with that, specifically, the moon is Rachel. And again, we said we've already located the lost tribes in the Philippines, landing in the territory of the Ilocanos, and we do even go further in our Lost Tribes series, and we tie Ilocanos to the tribe of Manasseh. Manasseh is Joseph's son. Joseph is the son of who? Rachel. An interesting tie also. And under her feet is a reference to Islam, the moon cult, of which the largest population on earth is right there at her feet. No, we are not saying Rachel is Islam in any sense. We're saying it is yet another very distinct reference to the moon under her feet. That is all. And the crown of 12 stars are 12 tribes of Israel indeed, but also found geographically on and literally as the 12 burning islands, the Babuyan Islands, the gateway, the portal in the east perhaps, just above the figure of the woman, forming a circle as a crown even. It all fits, and it really is unthinkable that Yahuwah would not include this land with all of its history, the most history of any land in all of earth. And that he wouldn't include that in prophecy is unthinkable to us. And we find he does in this case. We know there will be those that continue to attempt to debate, as there are a few who hold dear to the rapture doctrine and other interpretations of Revelation 12, and that's fine, but don't ask us to agree, as we have proven our case, and we have yet to see anything in comments that debunks this interpretation. We say we don't prove this like we prove the geography of Ophir, and that is true, but only because that is not possible, really, not with prophecy. But let's be clear, there is more to this than any interpretation of Revelation 12 we have ever seen by far, that we've ever heard or read. And everything within this interpretation has been proven out and vetted, and it ties. Most others do not bother with such a process. We know because we've reviewed many over the years. Saying the woman is the bride of Messiah, doesn't vet. We already proved that. Taking Revelation back into the past is against John's own words. Read Revelation 1:1, where he defines this entire book of events to come to pass, not things from the past. And that includes even Messiah's ascension, which was well past before this book was written and dictated from Messiah and angels. We welcome good dialogue, but we quickly rebuke nonsense, and we will continue to do so. Now, in the next video, we will break down the final element here in this passage, the dragon. What does his portion of this story tell us? And also, is there a tie to a land on earth? Can we actually know where the beast rises out of the sea? No, not a multitude of people. That is wholly unscriptural. Never does Scripture say that the word sea, neither in Hebrew nor Greek, means a multitude of people. That is modern scholarship inserting something completely rather weird, frankly. But especially now that we know the land that protects the woman is the Philippines. We believe we can, and coming very soon after this, stay tuned. Thank you for watching our Solomon's Gold series. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to click the bell, share this video with others, and check out our website at thegodculture.com. Always remember to prove all things for yourself. Yahuwah, God bless.